never ask about the past, don't expect a future. They think they can handle it, but realize almost immediately that they can't handle it at all. Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you guys are new here, my name is Kim and I am back this week with another book video. I did one about 2 months ago on my favorite dystopian and fantasy novels and y'all really seem to like it, so I thought I would bring that idea back this week. And instead of doing some book recommendations, I thought I would share what's on my TBR list, which is my to be read list. And I have a lot of science fiction, contemporary, young adult romance novels to talk about in this video. So if you guys like those kinds of books, make sure you stick around. And if you haven't watched my other book video, I will link it up here so you can go check that out after you watch this one. But I actually don't have a lot of the books I'm going to talk about today in my actual hands. I think I have one or two because I haven't purchased them yet. So I'm going to have a screenshot of all the books on the screen as I go through and talk about them. And I know, I'm sorry, I feel like it's not as satisfying when you don't have the actual thing in your hands that you're talking about. But I will have links to all of the books I mention in the description box below if you want to check any of them out. And I'm really excited for this video. I love getting book recommendations from other people and I'm not a booktuber whatsoever, but I hope that this is helpful for you guys. And if you like this video, be sure to give it a big old thumbs up and subscribe below if you are new here. And without further ado, let's jump into the video. Now, before I get started, it is a little bit cloudy here today and I feel like the lighting gets really bright and then it goes dark. So I apologize for that. But I am going to start off by talking about some young adult science fiction fantasy novels, and then we will move later into the romance. The first book that I'm going to talk about is Strange the Dreamer. This is by Lonnie Taylor. I actually briefly talked about this in my last book video, and I just started reading it yesterday actually. It's over 500 pages, so I know it's going to take me a while. But this is a science fiction fantasy novel and it gets compared a lot to the Disney movie The Lost City of Atlantis, which is one of my favorite movies. So if y'all like kind of adventure, mystery kind of movies or books, you might actually really enjoy this one. This one is about a character. His name is Laszlo Strange. He's an orphan and a junior librarian, and he is obsessed with what they call the lost city of Weep. It just mysteriously disappeared over 200 years ago and nobody knows anything about it. The dream chooses the dreamer, not the other way around. And Laszlo Strange, war orphan and junior librarian, has always feared that his dream chose poorly. Since he was 5 years old, he's been obsessed with the mythic lost city of Weep, but it would take someone bolder than he to cross half the world in search of it. Then a stunning opportunity presents itself in the person of a hero called the Godslayer and a band of legendary warriors, and he has to seize his chance or lose his dream forever. Fall into a mythical world of dread and wonder, moths and nightmares, love and carnage. Welcome to Weep. So it is part of a trilogy, I guess. This is the first book and I'm really intrigued to read it. So if you guys have read it, be sure to let me know in the comments and let's move on to book number 2. The second book I'm going to talk about is called The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. And this book, it just seems super interesting to me, the whole concept about it. It's basically about this big library. I guess they call it the Midnight Library. And it's about this girl. She kind of goes into this library and this library has a ton of books all based on your life and alternate realities of your life. If you had made different decisions, what your life would have looked like. And she kind of goes on this big adventure trying to discover herself and how her life decisions affect the life that she has now, and would she go back and change different things. And it just is such an interesting concept to me because I feel as people and as humans, that's something, at least for me, I tend to think about all the time when something doesn't go my way. I'm oh, what if I had done something different? What would that have looked like? What would my alternate reality kind of be? So I thought it'd be really interesting to read. I'll read a little bit of the description for y'all. Somewhere out beyond the edge of the universe, there is a library that contains an infinite number of books, each one the story of another reality. One tells the story of your life as it is, along with another book for the other life you could have lived if you had made a different choice at any point in your life. While we all wonder how our lives might have been, what if you had the chance to go to the library and see for yourself? Nora Seed finds herself faced with this decision. faced with the possibility of changing her life for a new one, following a different career, undoing old breakups, realizing her dreams of becoming a glaciologist. She must search within herself as she travels through the Midnight Library to decide what is truly fulfilling in life and what makes it worth living in the first place. The next fantasy book is Part of Your World by Liz Braswell. This is a part of her Twisted Tale book series. It's like 12 different books, all based on like the alternate realities of what would have happened if the good guys, I guess, didn't win in all like the OG Disney movies. They have like she has Aladdin, Sleeping Beauty, Beauty and the Beast, Mulan, Ariel. So the Part of Your World book is the Ariel version, and Ariel was one of my favorite Disney princesses growing up, so this is why I was drawn to this one the most. But I just think all together they would just be super interesting to read, and I really like the concept of the books. The Part of Your World book explores the concept of what would have happened if the sea witch Ursula had actually defeated the Little Mermaid and she took King Triton's life in the process. This little description just says Ariel is now the voiceless queen of Atlantica while Ursula runs Prince Eric's kingdom on land. But when Ariel discovers that her father might still be alive, she finds herself returning to a world and a prince she never imagined she would see again. So I'm really excited to hopefully read this someday because it just seems like such a cool, nice little quick read that I would really enjoy. The last fantasy book I'm going to talk about is also one that is part of a book series, and this is called, I literally just had this, A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah Maas. I believe this series has 4 books, and it does get compared a lot to the Folk of the Air book series or the Cruel Prince series, which I had talked about in my last video, which that is like one of my favorite book series of all times. I really enjoyed reading it in quarantine last year. So I was really drawn to the idea about this book. It's definitely more of like a science fiction, fantasy, a lot of like mythical fairy type aspects similar to the Folk of the Air book series. When 19-year-old huntress Faye kills a wolf in the woods, a terrifying creature arrives to demand retribution. Dragged to a treacherous magical land she knows only about from legends, Faye discovers that her captor is not truly a beast, but one of the lethal, immortal fairies who once ruled her world. As she adapts to her new home, her feelings for the fairy, Tamerlane, transforms from icy hostility into a fiery passion that burns through every lie she's been told about the beautiful, dangerous world of the Fae. But something is not right in the fairylands. An ancient, wicked shadow is growing, and Faye must find a way to stop it or doom Tamerlane and his world forever. And one of my favorite bloggers that I follow on Instagram actually just read the book series, and she was like, I cannot put down this book, like it is so good. So I was like, damn, I really need to like get on this book train and read this book. This next book is one that has gone viral all over TikTok. It's called Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Can I just say the cover just looks so beautiful to me. It's very like aesthetic looking, kind of has that like nice like coastal beachy, almost mysterious kind of vibe to it. And this one is a historical fiction, so we're kind of moving away from the fantasy books at this point in the video. But this is a historical fiction. It's kind of like mysterious. It says it also could be like a chick lit romance. Malibu, August 1983. It's the day of Nina Riva's annual end of summer party, and anticipation is at a fever pitch. Everyone wants to be around the famous Rivas, which I'm guessing they're kind of like celebrities, which also makes the storyline interesting. Together, the siblings are a source of fascination in Malibu and the world over, especially as the offspring of the legendary singer Mick Riva. So it's about like, I guess they throw this big party and things go wrong. It says by midnight the party will be completely out of control. By morning the Riva mansion will have gone up in flames. But before the first spark in the early hours before dawn, the alcohol will flow, the music will play, and the loves and secrets that shaped this family's generations will all come rising to the surface. The next few books I have on my TBR are actually Colleen Hoover books, so now we are getting more into like the contemporary young adult romance category. And I actually have a Colleen Hoover book here with me that I would also recommend, but I have already read it, so it's not on my TBR anymore. It's called Regretting You, and it is a young adult romance novel about a mother and a daughter's relationship and their family dynamic, and they each have their own romance, and it tells it in the perspective like going back and forth between the mom and the daughter. But it was such a good book. There is a big plot twist in this book, which I was not expecting at the end. I was like, holy crap. I actually bought this for one of my good friends for her birthday to read, because I was like, you need to read this. I think you would really enjoy it. But Colleen Hoover is such a good writer. She does a lot of really good romance novels, and everybody's been raving about these couple of books. So I have what is this called? It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover, Ugly Love, and then I Hear Good Things About November 9, and I think it's like All My Perfects. But I was only going to include It Ends With Us and Ugly Love because I've had that on my list for literally ever. So I thought I'll give y'all a quick synopsis of each book. So Colleen Hoover's It Ends With Us is an unforgettable tale of love that comes at an ultimate price. It's about this girl, Lily, and she lives in the small town in Maine where she grew up. She graduated from college, moved to Boston, started her own business, and then she falls for this neurosurgeon named Ryle Kincaid. And I guess he's super stubborn, like he has like that big bad boy vibe to him. And then they kind of hit it off and get into a relationship, but then her ex comes back into her life, and his name is Atlas, and he was her first love. It gives me kind of like the three-way kind of romance kind of vibe, and it says when Atlas suddenly reappears, everything Lily has built with Ryle is threatened. And it just seems kind of like a page turner, really good, steamy romance, which I'm a sucker for good romance. So I was really excited to read that one. And then moving on to Ugly Love. I'm just trying to pull it up on my phone here real quick. So it's about this girl, Tate, and she meets an airline pilot named Miles Archer, which I love the name Miles, something about it, I don't really know. And she doesn't think it's love at first sight. They wouldn't even go as far as to consider themselves friends, giving me very like enemies to lovers kind of trope vibes. The only thing Tate and Miles have in common is an undeniable mutual attraction. Once their desires are out in the open, they realize they have the perfect setup. He doesn't want love, she doesn't have time for love, so that just leaves the sex. The arrangement could be surprisingly seamless as long as Tate can stick to the only two rules Miles has for her. Never ask about the past, don't expect a future. They think they can handle it, but realize almost immediately that they can't handle it at all. It just sounds super steamy, and I'm really excited to read this. I've heard great things about it. And if I remember correctly, November 9 is about another couple, and I guess they kind of randomly meet, and then they end up going back to meet each other once a year on November 9, which was the day that they met. And they kind of challenge each other to do like certain things throughout the year before they meet again on November 9th. And it's just like kind of another romance type novel. And the booktuber that I watch a lot, she talks about it all the time. So I was like, I have to add that to my TBR. The next romance book I'm going to talk about is 1,000 Boy Kisses by Tillie Cole. And I heard that this one is similar to The Fault in Our Stars, and it is very sad and it will make you cry. But I'm a sucker for a good romance. This is more of like a teeny bop kind of book, but I don't really care. I love young adult books. One kiss lasts a moment, but 1,000 kisses can last a lifetime. One boy, one girl. A bond that is forged in an instant and cherished for a decade. A bond that neither time nor distance can break, and a bond that will last forever. Or so they believe. When 17-year-old Rune Christensen returns from his native Norway to the sleepy town of Blossom Grove, Georgia, where he befriended Poppy Litchfield as a child. Poppy is a very trendy name right now. Anyways, he has just one thing on his mind. Why did the girl, who was one half of his soul, who promised to wait faithfully for his return, cut him off without a word of explanation? Rune's heart was broken 2 years ago when Poppy fell silent. When he discovers the truth, he finds that the greatest heartache is yet to come. One of the booktubers I talk about, or I follow, talks about this book all the time, and she was like, you need to read it. So I have it on my TBR. Let me know if you guys have read it. Now the last book I'm going to talk about is more of like an uplifting, really fun romance novel, and it's called The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren, another one that has gone pretty viral on social media lately. It's basically like a vacation kind of romance. It's described as a really good beach read too. Olive Torres is used to being the unlucky twin. From inexplicable mishaps to a recent layoff, her life seems to be almost comically jinxed. By contrast, her sister Amy is an eternal champion. She even managed to finance her entire wedding by winning a slew of contests. Wow. Unfortunately for Olive, the only worse than constant bad luck is having to spend the wedding day with the best man, aka her nemesis, Ethan Thomas. Olive braces herself for wedding hell, determined to put on a brave face, but when the entire wedding party gets food poisoning, the only people who aren't affected are Olive and Ethan. Suddenly, there's a free honeymoon up for grabs, and Olive will be damned if Ethan gets to enjoy paradise solo. Agreeing to a temporary truce, the pair head for Maui. After all, 10 days of bliss is worth having to assume the role of loving newlyweds, right? But the weird thing is, Olive doesn't mind playing pretend. In fact, the more she pretends to be the luckiest woman alive, the more it feels like she actually might be. Sounds just like a really uplifting, funny, sweet romance. Almost kind of reminds me of like a Hallmark movie. If you guys have ever watched like the cheesy romance Hallmark movies, that's kind of like giving me this kind of a vibe. That is the last book that I'm going to talk about. I hope that you guys enjoyed watching this video, and if you guys have read any of those books, be sure to let me know in the comments. I would love to hear your thoughts. And again, don't forget to check out the description box for all of the books. I'll have them linked down below. But I hope that y'all enjoyed watching this video. Don't forget to give it a big ol' thumbs up if you did, and again, subscribe below if you are new here. I hope that you guys are having a great day wherever you are, and I will catch you in my next one. Bye guys!